Come and grab your seats, everyone. We're going to get started. Oh, they're coming. I just suggested they all sit down.
Michael. I keep telling him he's not listening to me.
If you read that out, can you not read that out?
No, of course I wouldn't. I didn't write that. No, I wouldn't read that.
Hey everyone, if someone lost this lovely brooch yesterday, it's yours, Pete? Oh, it's an earring, sorry. If anyone lost this brooch or knows whose it is, come and see me. Otherwise, I'll wear it this afternoon. Thank you all for coming back. We have the final Steps series meeting this afternoon, which is Steps 10, 11 and 12. I'm sure somewhere our Step 10 speaker is there somewhere. There she is. She is coming on stage. I'm going to hand the meeting over to Mark S. from Nowra, who's going to chair the meeting with Lee as the timekeeper. I'll leave it over to you, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Hi, friends. My name's Mark. I'm an alcoholic. And welcome to the Steps 10 and 11 and 12 meeting this morning of the 2025 Australian National Convention. And my home group is Nowra, There Is a Solution. So I'll start the meeting in the usual way with the preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of people who share their experience, strength and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is the desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses or opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And we have three wonderful speakers for this meeting, 25 minutes each on Step 10, 11 and 12. And we'll start with the first speaker, Kat M. from Auckland. Thanks, Kat.
Hi everyone, I'm Kat, I'm an alcoholic. Super great to be here in this very big room. It feels very grand. Can someone take a photo of me so I can send it to my kids? Thanks, they'd be so impressed. They wouldn't, they'd be like, what have you bought me from Sydney? I got sober here in Sydney on the 25th of September 2005. And for the first almost 10 years of my recovery, I was here. And when I first got sober, actually, was it when I first got sober or is it today? I've never been a huge fan of large gatherings of enthusiastic alcoholics. And I also attended my first national convention at the Hilton. And I think a previous speaker said maybe it was 2006 or something like that. And I didn't really like it. Everybody seemed to know each other, everybody seemed to be all connected and all joyful, that happy, joyous and free stuff, and I just didn't feel that. I didn't really feel like I had come home, I didn't feel like you were my people. I was quite cool when I got here. had just turned 27. I was heaps skinnier, heaps younger, and I did some really cool stuff in my active alcoholism. I don't remember all of it, but it was pretty rock and roll. And then I came here and we drank tea and people knitted things in meetings. Oh my God, it's like, no. And that's kind of what I came into, and it was really difficult for me to be enthusiastic about being here. And you know, that makes it sound like there was something wrong with all of you, but actually I was, I was terribly disconnected from myself. I didn't really know where I ended and where you started, and I didn't really know how I felt about anything. I couldn't name any of the feelings that I was having. I paid a lot of money in therapy to try and figure out what they were. And like it wasn't a very pleasant time. But I had an incredible sponsor, and I was at the convention at the Hilton. I went to the dance. Oh my God! And I remember her saying to me, "Let's dance," and I was like, "Oh my God!" And I did the dancing. And the previous speaker talked about having a fabulous time. I didn't. I just wanted the earth to swallow me up. The guy that I was in a relationship with, who had got sober 3 months before me, was out in the lobby having an emotional breakdown, like a full snot bubble one. He was like losing his mind, and I'm like, welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous. This was and it was awful. And but AA, but I went, I attended, and AA has taught me to show up no matter how I feel. And there were people. Maybe it was Julie. Somebody in my early meetings sort of said that you just come as you are. No, it was Libby. She said, you just show up to AA, you come as you are, and you're welcome here. And I'm really grateful for that. The fellowship in Sydney saved my life. Like it absolutely, there were people in this room that carried me to some of those things. And I'm so incredibly grateful. And I'm very proud. I'm proud to be sober. I'm proud to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And, this is pretty special, 80 years. And I think we're in a pretty good condition. I hope that, we'll still be here when my kids, if they need it, that they can walk through the doors and there are people there to put their hand out like they did for me. And anyway, I'm here to talk about step 10. It's quite difficult. I haven't seen a lot of people. I just spoke to someone from my first home group and then I had a little cry and I was like, I haven't even breathed in and out. So I'll just try and settle into that. It's really amazing, and we share a lot of time together, in this fellowship. I was a really reluctant joiner of Alcoholics Anonymous, and but I hung in there and I did all of those things. I got a sponsor, I joined a home group, I worked through the steps, I did service, and I tried to help other people. And it hasn't really got any more advanced than that. I think it's always really important for me anyway to identify that so that you know that I'm alcoholic. And for me, what that looks like is when I put alcohol in my body, something different happens to me than the normal drinker. So I get this craving. For more, and I can't stop. I lose that power of choice over whether or not I'll have 1, 10, 17, whatever. And I take copious amounts of drugs as well, and I do a whole lot of things that in my right mind I wouldn't do. And the other part that makes me alcoholic is when I come to and I go, oh my goodness, for the bits that I can remember, like most normal people, if it was just the alcohol, I would never drink again, right, and I'd be fine. But I've got this mental head, and I will go back and think that a drink is a good idea. It's like I just can't quite recall how painful and hideous it was the last time I drank. And so I drink again, and it seems like a good idea. And it doesn't even seem like it'll be different this time because I didn't even think it through that much. I just shove it in, and it's that hamster wheel of terrible stuff happens, and I drink again. And because the terrible stuff happens, it seems like a good idea to drink again, and that cycle just goes on and on and on. And that's how I drank. I drank like that right from the get-go. I'm going to get my water. Hold on. Thanks. That's what happens when you do too much chitty-chatty with people. So that's what alcoholism looks like for me. It's important that I talk about this because by the time we get to step 10, I'm never going to do step 10 if I'm not convinced that I have to do the rest of the program to stay alive. I'm not some kind of loser moron that's here for friends. If that's you, that's totally okay. If you're into that, this is just my experience. I'm not a spokesperson for AA. I think it's really important that this is just my experience today. You know, I'm not an expert on anything, but I am an expert on what's going on in my own little universe. But it's really important that I have that powerful step one experience. It kind of drives everything else that happens for me. If I think I can run my life on my own self-will, and that I can stay sober if I just manage well, then I'm never going to do all of the other things. Like, I'm not going to do a searching and fearless moral inventory. And you know, there are a lot of people in AA who, like, I think I have to work pretty hard just to stay even-keeled. Some people look like they don't have to work as hard as me. I don't really know what they're doing. But for me, I have to kind of do a whole lot of stuff. And, you know, I have to stay current with that experience too, because step 10 talks about resting on your laurels and how we're heading for danger if we do that. And my laurels are that's my past achievements. You know, how awesome I was at recovery last year. You should have seen me in 2019. I nailed it. And so therefore I get a bit of cred, right? And I don't have to do it. What I love about our literature is that it sets us up. You know, each step has why we do it. It has really clear-cut directions about what we do. It has these beautiful promises around all of the steps about all the goodies that you're going to get. And look, they're not diamonds, and it never mentions diamonds, but it's stuff like freedom and peace of mind. And, you know, when you're 27 and you've come from the nightclubs, you're like, peace of mind. I'm like, good God, I want a hot drug dealer boyfriend and a fast car, you know, whatever. And, you know, anyway. But then it also has the warnings. And it says, you know, you're going to get this super amazing experience and all these good things. Oh, but hey, if you don't do it, these are the ways you're going to die. And I'm not making this up. That's how it lays it out like that. And you know, we can read through that stuff, and we get all. I mean, we should have the warnings up on banners. The promises. You sit in a meeting, you go, oh, let's read the promises out. That's nice. Well, why don't we read the warnings about what happens if you don't take the actions? Oh my God, I sound very bossy. God, so whatever, you guys do what you want. It's totally cool. At the end of the day, I need to stay sober for me. You know, I need to do what works for me. It might look like this today, and hopefully it will grow and change. You know, my function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. And so how I work step 10 today, it'll look different. You know, like the more work I do and the more people I sponsor and the more open-minded I am, you know, things grow and change. And that's really cool. It keeps it interesting. Hold on. Imagine if that was vodka. Anywho. I know I'm like, quite thirsty. Okay, so I've got to be convinced that I need a power, right? And my life is contingent on having this power in my life. I have to believe that I need it, and then I have to work to have that connection with God. In step 3, you know, we go through this body of work in pages 60 to 63, where we talk about being the actor running the show, and how if only everyone would do what I want, then everything would be okay. And it sets me up beautifully for how I show up in the world and the stuff that I'm going to be looking for in the rest of the steps. And it talks about how I step on the toes of my fellows and they retaliate. And it talks about me setting the ball in motion. And it talks about how, you know, I'm driven by 100 forms of fear. I'm a real piece of work. Like, if you're alcoholic like me, like, this is all going on all the time in the background. And this is the stuff that snowballs and gets on top of me if I'm not watching for it. So I learn all that stuff in step 3. Step 3 sets me up beautifully to quit playing God and then move into that beautiful inventory process where I get to look at the truth of what's really going on in my life. And What I love about writing inventory is that a lot of the stuff that's going on in my head isn't actually happening in the real world. And I don't often see that until I put pen to paper. And I look at, I write inventory. I'm afraid a lot. I'm also angry a lot. It's great. I've got heaps of material to work with. It's why I'm still here. When I'm resentful, I have to look at, what is being affected in me. There's always some fear behind it. And then I have to look at how I'm actually showing up to the situation. And am I trying to manipulate things to get my way? How am I the actor here, even though I'm angry? What am I doing that's, trying to make everything look the way I need it to look for me to be okay? And what am I so afraid of? And so I take that inventory, and from that inventory process, I'm pretty good at writing inventory. I do that really well. I don't do it often, but I do it really well. And I can write a mean piece of inventory, and I can get really clear on what's going on. However, a solitary self-appraisal is good, right, but not good enough. And so I need sponsorship. I need someone that can hear that. And somebody that can, when I'm like, well, he did this, and this, and they say things like, in real life, and I'm like, well, it seemed like that, that they break down all of that delusion in my mind, and they show me the truth, and they ask me questions about my thinking, because my thinking's a little skewed, because I'm quite self-centered. So I use that process, and then I've got all this kind of stuff, defects of character or whatever, and I take that into 6 and 7, and I'm able to work with that stuff. A lot of that stuff, I can't just go, God, stop me from being an asshole, please, and that works. It doesn't work. I have to be really clear about the exact nature of asshole that I am, so that I can actually be really specific about, well, what does God want me to be? Like, what is God's will for me in this relationship with my kids, at work? And how do I get to that? It's not by magic. It's by sitting, usually for me, it's by sitting between column 3 and column 4 in a resentment inventory or in a fear inventory. And it's about going, God, what do I do? Like, what do I do here? What do you want me to be? How do I show up to work? And I write a prayer, and I get prayer from that. And then I take that into 6 and 7, and that's the stuff that I'm working with. I often say to people that I sponsor, it's like, if you do a big inventory and you've written like 1 million resentments and whatever, it's like, let's just start with like one thing. We can't change everything all at once. So for me, it might be my, how critical I am. If I can just work on one little thing with God, oh my God, it's plenty. I can't do the whole thing. I'll fail. So I have some prayer to take into step 7. Our big book says, rewrite your prayers. Write them in words and language and ways that work for you. And so that's what I do. And then we make amends and stuff, and people talked about that. I'm not going to go too much into that. And then in step 11, on awakening, I'm connecting with God, and I'm taking all of that stuff that's come from inventory, and I'm going, well, what are my corrective measures today? How am I going to show up? How am I not going to be like this? What do you need me to do? That kind of stuff. And then we get to step 10. Notice how it's the only thing I need a book for and the only thing I'm supposed to be talking about. I'm actually pretty stoked because I actually do practice step 10 and everything else. So we get to step 10. I'm going to read what it says because I love it, because it's really concise and clear. So we continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. So that's what I'm doing during the day. I'm watching. How do I remember to watch? Well, I sit in the morning on awakening, and I know what I'm watching for because I've been that kind of arsehole the day before. So I'm taking that stuff into prayer. When these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. I I'm somebody who I don't focus on the defects. I focus on what God's will is for me and what the opposite characteristics of those things are. Affirmative prayer. Big fan of Emmett Fox, and I've found a way to pray that works for me. So I'm affirming that I'm a less critical person than, I'm not, anyway. So I affirm that stuff, and instead of saying, God, remove me, remove this hideous thing, the focus is for me, it would be something like, I'm going to read you one. Wait 1 sec. I do have one prepared. Oh, it's not that bad. I got 2 kids. I can do anything through any kind of noise. So here's an example of an affirmative prayer. Now, I might not have time when I'm doing a spot check inventory to kind of pull this out of my pocket and what have you, but this is the kind of prayer that I get from writing inventory that I'm taking with me into my day. So God, I know how deeply you love me. Thank you for giving me the awareness of the thoughts and the behaviours that are blocking me from being the highest version of myself. I know that on my own I can't change, but with your limitless power, I can access the strength and courage I need. God, thank you for creating me with a calm and generous spirit, that I can show tolerance, acceptance, and forgiveness of those around me. Thank you for the ability to be open-minded and non-judgmental of both others and myself. As I'm becoming more disciplined each day, I pray that you continue to show me how to navigate this wonderful life with an open heart, with gratitude, and be ever conscious of your presence. So that's what I need to do to not show up like an asshole. And so I have, this is what I go to. And I when I watch and turn, it's positive because God loves me. I can be all of those things, but I can't be all of those things if I'm constantly going, oh my God, I'm so critical and I'm so judgmental and I'm such a bad person. Like it's never going to happen. So that's kind of what I do there. The next instruction is we discuss them with someone immediately. Now for me, I don't save this up for 7:30 on a Tuesday to tell my sponsor about what happened in the past week. I'm making a phone call. I'm making a phone call immediately, unless I'm super mad and I want to sit and stew in it for a bit. But at some point, quite quickly, I'm going to make a phone call. And that 10th-step phone call is going to be, I need to make a 10th-step call. And it's a 5-minute conversation, usually with somebody that can be understanding and effective and useful. And they're going to ask me those questions like, is this really happening? Where did you set the ball in motion? Like what could you do differently? Yeah, I understand you can do this. Maybe you need to just go in and make amends. And I really value those relationships with my sponsor and with my people in Alcoholics Anonymous who are useful. I don't need people to go, oh, you're so busy and you're so special and you're so important, so don't worry about it. That's unhelpful. So I need those people that are going to call me on that stuff and help me see the truth and help point me back to God, back to the program, and help me move on my way and clear up all that stuff quickly. I make amends quickly if I've harmed anyone, and then I resolutely turn my thoughts to someone we can help. It doesn't mean I need to rush out and save the world. It can be a prayer, it can be a thought, it can be a quick text message. Hope you're having a great day. It's just getting off myself, and then I move on. Hopefully I get some freedom from that process. If I get a bit of a relief and I'm angry when I'm writing my evening review, then I probably need to do some more work around it and write some inventory. I just want to share a story. Have some more vodka. Swear to God, if that was vodka, I would be nude by now. It's definitely not vodka. So I want to... It seems funny. When I was 27, it would be less terrifying. It's not going to be good today. no, don't wish for that. Anyhow, I want to share a story of using this process and it working, because it's all good. I think any bozo can read the book and talk about what it says and sound smart, but the magic of the program is in actually taking the actions of it and then having that experience. So 2019, my mother-in-law came to stay with us. I know, right? Thank you, right from the start. You haven't even heard the best bit. For 5 weeks. I know, right? From New York, and we're living in Auckland. And yeah, I was trying to convince my husband that was too long and that would never work out. And he was like, I love my mum and I want her to come and stay for 5 weeks. Over Christmas, we have 2 little kids at home. It's the end of a busy school year. I'm working, we're all working, it's busy, whatever. And I'm like, okay. And 2 days in, I call my sponsor. I'm like, I can't do it. I'm not going to be able to do it. Nothing bad has happened, but I just know of myself I cannot do this. I'm not going to be able to show up well for 5 weeks. I'm going to bring this. I can't even swear that. I can't even say what I'm saying. I'm going to bring this whole show down, like to the ground. I'm going to burn it all. And I'm worried. Like, I'm not just, I don't know, I'm sober enough. I know that I don't want to do that, but I've got no experience of being well-behaved and kind and selfless for 5 weeks. None in my whole entire existence. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And she says to me, she's like, you're going to have to affirm that you have this incredible relationship with your mother-in-law and that you guys are going to have this fantastic experience and it's going to be great. And I'm like, okay. She's like, every day. And so I work on a prayer similar to that. I wish I had that prayer. I don't know where it is, but I worked on that. And I was like, okay. She's like, one day at a time, you're just going to have to do that and you're going to have to call me. And so I do that, and first morning I'm up early and I'm making coffee, and I hear her. She's old. She's got a lot of health challenges. She shuffles around. She's got a stick, and it's the clunking and she sucks her teeth. Anyway, and I hear her shuffling out, and I'm like, God, I can't wait to see what you've got in store for us today. I'm so glad that Grandma's here to have this incredible experience with us. Fucking all the time. Not just one time in the morning, like all the time. And because it's everything. And she's not doing anything wrong. She's this incredible woman who's travelled halfway around the world to be with us, to meet her grandchildren for the first time. It's pretty incredible. And I'm doing this prayer all the time. And she needs a lot of help. She brought a beautiful new camera. She forgot the charger. I had to order her one. She can't go to the beach. It's summer. I have to adjust to not be so selfish, but to consider what's best for her. And so for 5 weeks, the first couple of weeks, I'm praying all the time. I'm calling my sponsor. This is happening. That's happening. I don't think I can do this. She's like, you just got to keep watching, turning, affirming. And I'm doing this process over and over and over. And you know what happens? Is all of a sudden I don't have to do it anymore. And I start to feel this incredible connection with her. And she's bothering me less. And I love her more. And my kids are having a great time. My husband's not doing as much prayer. His time is not like mine. It's a bit different. We drop her off to the airport after about 5 weeks, and I had to help her put her compression stockings on. She's got terrible arthritis, and I'd had to help her get all the photos off the phone and onto the computer, like 3 at a time. And I got to see all these beautiful photos. I know, 3 at a time. There's hundreds of them. All of these photos of this woman, because by the end of it, I didn't want her to go, and I wanted her to stay with us forever. And I wanted to look after her, and I wanted her to be close to us. And I looked at all these photos that I was downloading with her at her church and with her people and the lunches and the things. And I said, she's going to be okay. And we dropped her at the airport, and I cried. I howled. I was so upset. It makes me cry now. And I know I am going to stop. I'm sorry. I'm nearly done. And I cried, and my husband said to me, what is going on with you? And I'm like, I'm just really going to miss her. And I shared this story a couple of years ago. He had no idea that I was doing that level of spiritual work. You know why? Because it's not his business. Because I don't want him to know that I have to spend all fucking day praying for his mum so that he can have a lovely life with her. But what has happened, and because that's not fair, because it's not his burden, it's me. It's because I'm selfish and self-centered and I can't think beyond myself. And we have an incredible relationship today. My kids love her and I haven't seen her since 2019. But she gave me this very fancy diamond ring. Who said there's no diamonds? And you know what? There are diamonds. It's not way did I swear to God. She gave it to my husband. He saw her last year and she sent it back with him and she FaceTimed me and she said, I just love you so much. This is the most expensive thing I own and I want you to have it. And don't tell Gina, her daughter. Thank you.
Thank you, Kat. That was wonderful. I am going to read how it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault, they seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those too who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. At some of these we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. And step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What an order, I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we're willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. our description of the alcoholic, the chapter 2, the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear three pertinent ideas. A, that we're alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. And C, that God could and would if he was sought. And our next speaker for step 11 is Michael. Thank you, Michael.
Hi folks, my name's Michael, I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Michael.
Someone outside told me that you could only see the front 2 rows, so I shouldn't be scared, but that's a lie. I can see everybody. I'm a member of the Rex on a Monday night at King's Cross. Meeting starts at 6:30. All welcome, we'll get more chairs out if everyone does come at the same time. Actually, we're not there this week, we're somewhere else, but I can't remember. Come and see me at the end if you do want to come along, we're not there. This is great. We got here yesterday for the couple of meetings and the Saturday of the convention, and this kind of stuff. Coming to conventions always reminds me of the first convention I ever went to, which was in Scotland. Spoiler: I'm not Australian, and it was in 2012. And I was maybe four months sober, and my dad took me up to Oban, which is up more north of Glasgow in Scotland, to the yearly Oban convention. And I was like, Dad, what do you do at conventions? And he went, oh, it's great. You see people you've not seen for years. And I was like, I'm 22 and 4 months sober. I don't know anybody. I'm not, but it's funny what I've found. Any convention I went to after that started to be true, and so coming here yesterday and then again today has been pretty special. Obviously, it's not people I've not seen for years. That'd be really cool, but it's seen people. I've only been in Australia since September, but just coming here yesterday and everyone being together and seeing people that maybe I met when I first got here or have known for a while has been really cool. Just seeing different, thinking back to points of this awesome journey that I'm on in Australia and in sobriety. It's just awesome. I'm also trying my best to speak very slowly and pronounce my words. And if you laugh, it means you can understand me. So that's always encouraged. Also, that was the thing yesterday. There was all the meetings we went to yesterday. There was so much laughter and people having a great time. And I thought, I'm speaking in step 11. That's not very funny. It's not very. How can I get some laughs out of that? But not that it's about making you laugh, but it does help me know you understand what I'm saying. I'm so glad I got to follow Kat. She's done such a great job. And, step 11 is great, but I've always found it difficult to talk on one step without running up to it. So this is where I'm in danger of running out of time because there's 10 before it. I don't feel bad about repeating some things that Kat said, because the repetition of step 1, particularly for me, was very important. But it contributes greatly to why I'm still here, because different people kept saying it until I went, oh wait, yeah, I know I understand what they're talking about. And because some of the wording in step 11 is we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understand Him. So if I'm trying to improve on a conscious contact, there's an assumption there that I already have one. And if I had came to my first meeting and they went, Michael, don't worry, eventually you'll be improving on that conscious contact you have with God, I'd be like, what conscious contact am I trying to improve on? And why do I even need that? I'm here because I can't stop going to the park bar in Dalmuir and drinking more than I mean to. Why was this relevant to me drinking somewhere else with people that you don't even know? And I went to enough meetings when people started to talk about what alcoholism was and what it looked like for them. And, the heads that we've got, my head will do the best job it can to try and convince me I'm not like you people. And sometimes it will use real things. Like when I first went to Alcoholics Anonymous, when I first came, I was 22 and I was the youngest person in most rooms I went to for a few years. And that was a good piece of ammunition for my alcoholism to say, see, Michael, you're not like them. No one's 22. No one's your age. No one knows what it's like to get sober young. And someone said in the young person's meeting yesterday that she said she's sick of people saying, oh, just stick around, you've got your whole life ahead of you and all that stuff. And for years I got that people saying, I wish I got it at your age. You've got your whole life ahead of you. And I was going, I wish I was still drinking. That's... According to all you, I've got about 10 years of drinking left before I really need to think about coming back here. Anyway, this is where I'm going to run out of time because I'll just keep sidetracking myself with little stories. But I suffered from alcoholism, and I learned this in the first few months by people explaining what that was and telling me the things that alcoholics have in common, and also helping me figure out the things that we don't necessarily have in common, or we don't have to have in common. The things that matter, as I understand it, are when I start drinking, I can't stop drinking. My body is different to a non-alcoholic's body, and this body that I've had since I was born doesn't seem to digest alcohol properly. And when I put any in, it starts to crave more, and I don't know that's what's happening, so I put another one in, and then there's another craving that comes, and then I go, oh, I'm still quite thirsty, I have another drink, and then we just keep going. And, the best description that fit for me was that I can't guarantee you how many drinks I'm going to take once I start to drink. I could guess, and I might get it right, but it would be a guess, and it might be right. But I just can't guarantee it. When I start drinking, my body starts craving and I can't stop. Which, as it was explained to me, on its own isn't really a problem, because that's got a very simple solution, which is if your body craves alcohol whenever you drink it, don't drink it. Easy. Like people with peanut allergies, don't eat peanuts, because bad stuff happens when they do. But for me, I go, if that makes perfect sense, I'll not drink it. And then at some point my head goes, that's not true though, is it? You're not allowed, there's nothing wrong with your body. This time it'll be okay. It was the Jack Daniels that was the problem. Just stick to something else, and then I try. Anyway, I've got this thing in my head which convinces me that I'm not like you, that I'm not an alcoholic, and that this time it'll be okay. And then I start drinking, and I've believed the lie. And then my body starts craving and I can't stop, and I'm in trouble. And then I sober up and I go, right, okay, let's try again. Maybe it was the pub that was the problem. Maybe I need to drink somewhere else. Or maybe I need to drink with different people. They're a bad influence. Or maybe I should have listened to my mum and had something to eat before I went out. I got drunk too quick. All that kind of stuff. But every time I try, the same thing happens, because I've got something wrong with my body that doesn't digest alcohol properly. This isn't me making it up, by the way. If you've never read the big book, this is all in there. That's what I'm talking about. So those are the only two things that matter. I've got a physical allergic reaction to alcohol when I start to drink it, and I've got a mental obsession that tells me that the first one's not true, essentially, that this time it'll be different, I'll be able to drink safely. Because when I first came to Alcoholics Anonymous, I got the impression that you had to be hospitalised to be an alcoholic. You had to have done time in prison. You had to have lost a driving licence. You had to have lost a partner, or other bad stuff that you hear about in meetings. But that's things that happen to people that drink a lot. But that's not. It doesn't make you alcoholic. What makes me alcoholic, and thank God, or else I wouldn't be here. I'm not bragging that none of those things have happened, but when I was 22, I hadn't really done too much, and my drinking was actually very dull. Nothing really bad happened except I didn't want to be alive anymore. That was pretty brutal. So those are the two things that matter. So, and those two things are what make me powerless over alcohol. And if I've not got any power, and what I learned in step one, I need to find the power, and that's what I'm not going to do that long a talk for the rest of the steps, because Di will be so annoyed that I'll take up her time. I need to find a power, and I find a power through the rest of the steps by taking the actions that are outlined in steps 4 to 9. And my experience was, the short version of a long story is my experience was in doing that, something changed. I was maybe halfway through making my amends, and I met my sponsor and we were talking about stuff, and I all of a sudden realised that I hadn't thought about drinking, and I couldn't remember when. I couldn't remember when I stopped thinking. I couldn't remember my last thought of drink. I couldn't remember the last time I thought about the pub, and I couldn't remember. It had gone, and I was unaware of it. Something changed, like without me. That was the bit that actually freaked me out the most. That I didn't notice it. I thought I'd hear my alcoholism shutting the door on the way out, but it just didn't happen. I just, something changed, and I've never been the same since. And it's not because of me. In the ABCs at the end of how it works, the next line is being convinced. We were at step 3. And in the run up to step 3, my sponsor said, we need to be convinced of these 3 things. A, that we're alcoholic and can't manage our own lives. I was convinced of that. I had now had the information and experience to match up with that information. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. All the humans that I know had tried, including myself, and it didn't work. And C, that God could and would if he were sought. And honestly, at that time, I believed my sponsor. I believed the people that I was hearing in AA that said that something happened to them, that they came to believe in a power greater than themselves, and they found themselves quite easily not able to drink. I didn't have any experience of that at the time, but I believed them. And I just done what my sponsor said, and it happened. It was on my step 4 that I was worried this wouldn't work for me. I was scared that I'd go back to drinking because I didn't want to go back there. And anyway, it didn't happen. I kept doing what he told me, and I kept getting what they said I would get. And it's in doing that I get this conscious contact with God. And I think it's great. The book talks about when we, this sort of connection we get with God starts to become a working part of the mind. And it then goes on to say, well, but not always at the start. We're just figuring it out, and it says we'll pay for this, and I'm going to misquote it, but we'll pay for this assumption with lots of absurd actions and ideas. Like me thinking I'm constantly connected to God and he's giving me signs. Like, oh, she sat next to me on the bus. It must be fate. We have to be together. All that kind of stuff. It's about practice and so that's why I have to try and improve it. I'm trying to improve that conscious contact with God. Always figuring out what does God want from me, or rather, what does God want me to do for him, or how can I be of use to other people? That's a good indicator. I can't see that clock. Oh, you've got me there. I can see the time there. A good indicator for me if I'm operating on Michael's will or God's will usually is, do I want to do the thing? Because if I want to do it, it's probably my will. But if I get some kind of idea or some indication of some action that has to be taken that's going to be pretty uncomfortable for me, that's usually what God wants me to do, if it's the right thing. There was that's when I was telling someone a story recently, and it's, I guess this is the second part of step 11, because I have to pray only for knowledge of his will for me and the power to carry it out. Saying that we have to pray for the power suggests that I'm probably not going to have the power to do what he wants me to do, which means I might not like it. And I've came to realise that if the God that I believe in is constantly giving me things that I want to do and I'm up for, it's probably not God, it's probably me that's controlling that. Because God's will, the facts are, if God's will and my will did match up perfectly, I never would have ended up in Alcoholics Anonymous. I would have been pretty perfect, and I wouldn't have alcoholism. I'd be fine. I'd just be, because it's the other thing the book tells us is that we must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it kills us. And God makes that possible. I need God to help me get rid of me, because I'm the problem. I'm the root cause of my alcoholism, and God seems to be the solution to that. And this wasn't the story that I said that I was telling the other day. I will now tell you that story, because it's just, I just think it's a good. It's not good. It sounds like well, you don't know the story yet. I'll just tell you it and see what you think. I was, and stay with me, it is going to be relevant, but it's possibly going to be quite long, as I can't tell a short story. It was in, so the story starts about 10 years ago. No, it was a few years ago though. It was one Friday in work, and we were back home, and we were ordering lunch. So the deal was someone phoned it, someone else went and got it, and then they brought the lunch back, and then we didn't all have to leave the office. Perfect. You probably didn't need that explanation. So I looked up online the place we usually go to, and it was called Rolling One, if you care. That's what it was called. And I looked up and I was like, oh, they've changed their menu. That's great. They're doing all new stuff. And we were like, oh, great. So I said, I gave the number to Nicole. You don't really need the name, but Nicole. I said, Nicole, there's the number. Give them a phone. Here's the order. And Nicole phoned them up, ordered the food, and then went. We'd also been to this place loads of times, by the way. It wasn't like a new place, just a new menu. And stick with me. None of this seems relevant to anything. So Nicole gets the order, phones it up. Her and a couple of other people, more people do have to leave the office than just one, apparently. So two of them go and get the food. And I was like, great. And maybe after like 15 minutes, Nicole phones me. She was like, Michael, these people haven't got our order. They didn't get a phone call from us. She's like, what number did you give me? And I was like, I gave you the number that's on their Facebook page. And I went back to it. And it was a different roll shop called Rolling One. So we were in Clydebank. This one was in Cumbernauld. That's the other end of Glasgow. And she was like, oh, well, they were just about to close, but they're going to make the food. And I was like, oh, no. And I thought, I better phone the people who we've ordered from in case the food's ready, tell them to stop, cancel the order. And I phoned up, and the guy answered, and I was like, hi, mate, we've just phoned you to place a lunch order. Stick with me, the story's going to be relevant. I'm now very aware that all these people are watching me tell this story about ordering lunch. Anyway, so I phoned up, and I was like, mate, we've just ordered food, and I phoned the wrong one. I've Googled the wrong name or whatever. And he went, oh, well, the food's sitting here ready. And it was maybe like £35 or whatever, the order. And I was like, oh, right. And so I was like, oh, I guess the right thought came first. And I went, do you take card over the phone? Because I thought, I might as well pay for it. Sort of. And my boss is standing at the other side of the room, and he just went, hang up. And the guy went, oh, yeah, we can take card over the phone. But I found myself doing this. Beep. And I just hung up the phone. And instantly my stomach drops. And I was like, oh, my God, that I should not have done that. But I'm trying to look cool in the office, like I don't care about that kind of thing, because that's cool apparently, to my sick head. And my boss is like, doesn't matter, it probably happens all the time, whatever. And I was like, oh, yeah, you're right, it doesn't matter. But it did matter, like I was feeling awful. So the other lunch came, I had the worst lunch I've ever had, and then the whole rest of my Friday night was ruined. I was like, I just felt so guilty about this lunch. And again, this is relevant, but very long. The timer's gone. I've got loads of time. Great. I could tell you the full story. I'll go back to the beginning. No, maybe not. Yeah, we're near at the end. So anyway, so the next morning, I go to the usual Saturday morning, Chancellor Street in Glasgow. Shout out to Chancellor Street. Meeting that I go to, and I'm sitting in the meeting, and I can't focus on anything that's going on in the meeting because I'm just thinking about this. Yesterday, me hanging up on this guy, and what did to do with that bag of food? What's good, all that kind of stuff. And I'm just not focused on the meeting. And after it, my friend was like, "Oh, Michael, are you coming for coffee?" And I went, "No, I can't." I was like, "I need to go and deal with something." And I got in my car and I drove to Cumbernauld to Rolling One. I did not want to do that. That's the whole point of what I'm trying to make. None of this was my idea, but I felt awful. And I drove out there. I went and got money out the bank. And I was like, this is so embarrassing. I'm just going to go into a roll shop, not order something, and just pay for food we ordered yesterday. And I saw the guy at work take out his car, and he went in. I followed him in. He went, "Oh, hi mate, what can I get for you?" And I was like, "Look, man, I spoke to you on the phone yesterday. We ordered by accident, and then I hung up the phone on you." I said, "Then I've came to say I shouldn't have hung up the phone on you. That was awful. It was just that was the wrong thing to do, and I want to apologise for hanging up on you. And I'd like to pay for the food that we ordered, if I could." And he went, "Oh," he's like, "No one ever does that." And I was like, "I know. Well, today's the day," And he was like, I just phoned the wrong number. I gave the wrong number, but all this stuff. And he went, "Oh, it happens all the time." And I was like, "Okay." So my boss was right. It does happen all the time. But I went, "I just want to give you the money, and I apologise for hanging up on you. I'm really sorry." And he's like, "Oh, no problem." And he said, "Are you sure you don't want anything?" I went, No, nothing at all." I said, that was all. And then I left, and I got back in my car, and I just burst out crying. Because I was like, because I did it. I did the thing I didn't want to do, and it was humiliating, but not humiliating, it's probably more humiliating things, but I was like, it was humbling is what it was for me to, I guess the real embarrassing bit is that I never told anyone in my work that I did it because I knew they'd all slag me off. But, it's not really about them. But that's the thing. All I'm asked to do in step 11 is, this was about step 11, by the way, is to pray for knowledge of his will for me and the power to carry it out. The knowledge of his will for me was, Michael, you have to go and make this right. Regardless of the fact that I paid for everyone in the office's food. I didn't go, can I just pay for my meal from yesterday? You know what I mean? Can you split the bill? I'll come back next week. But, the knowledge of his will for me was to make it right. And apologise for hanging up on him, because that's not a cool thing to do. 5 minutes, wow. Cool. And the power to carry it out, because I don't have the power to do that on my own. It's not the kind of thing I want to be doing all the time. But that goes for everything. And the result of doing stuff like that and just trying to constantly improve my conscious contact with this power is that you just feel it more. What I've started to, it's been happening for years, but you're hearing people in AA talking about how they don't believe in coincidences and, it's all God incidences and all this stuff. And it's so true. Like, I believe that all through my life, God puts the right people where they're supposed to be at the right time. And God gives me the words to say the things I'm supposed to say at the right moment. There's times, particularly when I'm working with new people, they'll ask me a question that I go, in my mind goes, I don't know the answer to this. And then an answer comes out and they go, that makes sense. And I go, it did make sense. But it wasn't me. I don't know where that came from. And it's like, I firmly believe, see, if you look for where God is working in your life, you'll see him everywhere. And I think that for years I didn't see it because I wasn't looking. Because I didn't believe it. Why would God be interested in me? I'm sure he's got many more people to look after. But the wonderful thing about Alcoholics Anonymous is that it's a God of your own understanding, which means that, and We Agnostics covers this so great, that the hoop is so wide that we have to jump through to find God, that it's really, the only way to miss it is not to try. That's the only way to miss this thing. I love, and We Agnostics, the way they word it is that our own, and I think I'm mixing two lines together here, but it'll still tell the same story. And maybe if I hadn't said that, you wouldn't have noticed, but something like this. Our own conception of God, however inadequate, is good enough to make the approach. I'll translate that to Scottish language. Your own idea of God, however shite it is good enough. Which means you can come up with whatever rubbish God you want and it'll work. But how does that work? Who knows? But it does. They wrote it down, so it must be true. And it was my experience. Because the God that I sort of was trying to believe in when I was sitting at my sponsor's table, like 6 or 7 months sober, I was praying to whatever he was praying to. Because I had no idea. And not a clue. And one of the best words for me in step 11 is sought. And because, again, I don't know about you guys, I hear the steps and I misunderstand them. So like step 3 says, made a decision to turn our will and our life over to the care of God as we understand him. You can see it up there on the biggest scroll I've ever seen in my life. But I hear that as, find God right now. And that's not what it says. And step 11 says we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God. Whereas I hear that as have a 100% perfect conscious contact with God right now. The good thing about sought is that I get to seek. I get to just keep looking forever. Again, and how it works lets me off the hook as well, because we're not saints. No one gets this perfect. It's funny when Darren asked me to speak on step 11. First of all, when Darren asked me to speak, I was like, oh, great, yes, love that. My ego loves speaking in an AA meeting. And then he said, on step 11, I was like, no. Why step 11? I think I can get a bunch of laughs on the other steps, but not step 11. And because, I don't know why I was even saying that, actually. There was a reason I was saying that, but it's great. This is I guess I'm grateful to be here. This is a real privilege to get to speak in any meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, but never mind it. 80 years of AA in Australia when I'm not even Australian. That's cool. I've not even been here 1 year. That's, you know what I mean? It's just cool. It's so great to be part of this because I'm not supposed to be here. I've been saying this since we got to Australia, and I do mean Australia. I'm not supposed to be in Australia, but I'm also not supposed to be sober. I don't think. Got it 1 minute to go. None of this was my idea. I'll tell you this just in a minute. I've got 1 minute to tell you this piece. That getting sober was the best idea I ever had in my drinking, and that's a fact. The best decision I ever made in my alcoholism was to come to AA. And coming to Australia has just been awesome. But it also was not my idea. My partner Rona said she wanted to come to Australia ever since we got together. And in my head I thought, well, when she goes, that's when we'll split up, because I'm not going there. Because of all the big spiders you've got and all the flight's too long, there's sharks in the water. Why do you want any of that? And I've never been so happy to be wrong about something in my whole life. Like, this has been awesome. And since we've got here, it's almost been like, I think that conscious contact with God, I found myself become quite good, as humbly as I can say that, at thanking God for stuff that happens in my life, good and bad. But see, because I know coming to Australia was not my idea, I don't thank Rona for it all the time, but I thank God that I'm anything that happens, I go, this is God. I'm not supposed to be here. This is cool. So everything is as a result of, me standing here right now is a direct result of the power that I found in working the steps. It's not as a result of anything I have done, because my ideas are not the right ones. And I think I'll shut up, because if my minute's not up, I'll be breaking my own record of finishing on time. Oh, how long have I got? 15 seconds? No, is that over time? Oh, 5 minutes over. Okay, no, I'm only kidding. I'm not joking. Thanks so much, guys. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Michael. And our final speaker for step 12 is Di. Thank you, Di.
Got my clock. Morning. Diane, alcoholic addict. Member of the Woolwich Sunday evening group at 5 p.m. And I know I have some group members here, and I'm very grateful that they're here to support me. I've been thinking about what to say. I do a lot of talking in AA, and many of you know that. And I want to thank Kat and Michael. I think they did a great job with those step 10 and 11. And I'm not going to run through the other 11 steps. I just want to tell you that, because I think they've done the job that I need them to do. So I'm talking about step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, first part of it. We try to carry this message to alcoholics, second part, and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Now, that's a big, tall order, I think, for any alcoholic. My sobriety date's the 1st of June 1975. If I get to the 1st of June 2025, I'll be 50 years sober. And thank you. And that is a direct tribute to Alcoholics Anonymous and the fact that I've continued to show up and not a lot about what I've done. And I know that you're looking at me and thinking to yourself, my God, she's looking good for 50 years sober. And when I'm looking at you, that's what I'm thinking about you. Because I think we start looking younger as we get well, because we start taking care of ourselves. So I want to start talking about what's a spiritual awakening. Now, many of you in the room have heard me many, many times, and I'm going to give you a very quick plotted history about my drinking and my early life. I came from an alcoholic family. My mother was a chronic alcoholic. My father was a gambling man who drank as much as she did but was not an alcoholic. I learnt at a very young age to hate alcohol. At the age of 7, I vowed I would never drink. Have you parented an age, a 7-year-old? Do you remember what it's like to be 7? It's a massive statement to make when you're 7. But that's what I saw and that's what I decided. Now, I drank 3 short years later at a party I shouldn't have been at with people who were significantly older than me. I was standing, I can still picture it, the house still stands in Harbord, and I was standing in the hallway of this, and someone walked past me and put a can of VB beer in my hand, Victoria Bitter. I didn't know, much about what it was. I drank it. I had agonised for that first decade of my life about why my mother did to herself what she did. And I'm not going to go into her story, but it's sufficient to say it was very public and very horrific. And when I drank probably half of that can, and it hit the soles of my feet and the tips of my fingers and the pit of my stomach and the top of my head, I thought, this is why she drinks this stuff. Now, I don't know if you remember your first drink, but that was mine. And many of you I know, when I'm looking around the room, you drank with some success for some years. I had probably 6 months of some control and went into uncontrolled drinking. Found the early morning drink, no parental control in my life, did what I wanted. Arrogant, wild, young girl. Learned how to play the game, to get what I wanted. Was not a very good person to be around. Attracted people who were like me. And I remember as I went down each level of my drinking, and I would look at someone who was worse than me in the pub and think, when I get as bad as you, I'll do something about it. Or when I get as bad as you, I'll do something about it. But absolute denial about myself. So when we're talking about a spiritual awakening, I'm in a space of having raised in a family that is spiritually dead, and then I pour alcohol on top of it. And I have a love affair with alcohol. Drugs are a big part of my story. Many of you know that. They are a product of the era in which I grew up. They are the reason I got here so young. I don't care anymore. I'm grateful. It's like I did a number on myself. Didn't matter what I used, I would use it to change the way I felt, because I didn't like me. And none of my behaviour was acceptable to anybody else. Police became a big part of my life. I was illegal on all fronts. I wasn't of legal drinking age when I was taken to my first AA meeting. I was 17 and a half years of age, and a man picked me up out of the gutter. He was a career criminal. It's the only kind of guy I was going to be interested in. And, it took me to my first AA meeting. He, in fact, was he manipulated poker machines for a living, this man. Back in the day when you put money in, I don't play poker machines, by the way, so I'm really not sure now, but, you put the thing in, pull the lever, right, and then the things, and then you might win something, right? And so his idea was that he had a bit of wire that he would put up the reject chute and jiggle the handle, and all the money would come out. Now, my job with the fashionably large handbag was to put the handbag under where the money came out and have all the coins go into it. I was 17 and a half years old. I thought this was the easiest money I'd made in a very long time. We got to Dubbo, we were doing a trip out west, and he told me his story. I'd had a fight with some women in a public bar the night before. Nothing about my story is attractive, right? There's not too many funny stories in it. But I came to the next morning picking glass out of my face, and I said to him, what happened? And he said, you don't remember, do you? And I went, no, that was standard. And as I picked the glass out of my face, he told me what his story was. And he was a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, I very quickly must tell you, for those of you that are new, he had not grasped the concept of rigorous honesty, right? But quite frankly, I think there's one of us for everybody, isn't there? Because nobody else was going to get me in the rooms. If you'd have been talking about coming to believe in a power grade himself and where you kind of make amends to people and admit we're wrong, I would have run the other way. Colin was the kind of guy, he said this to me, he said, look, Diane, listen to me. If you're a thief and you go to AA and you get sober, You'll be a better thief, all right? Now, that's all you need to know. Now, I know I'm squeaky. I've got to tell you, I just sort of caveat all this. I'm very squeaky clean these days and have been for a very long time. But the interesting thing for me was that he got me to my first AA meeting shortly thereafter. I mucked around with it for 8 months. I had a desire to drink every day. I used something in that 8 months. I really don't remember very much. And I came to, after I walked away from the fellowship, I had said to him, I finally found the courage to say to him, I don't want to go anymore, because my alcoholism had rendered me mute. I couldn't speak. I couldn't say I don't want to go to these meetings. I'd sit in these meetings and not speak to anyone. But enough permeated throughout 8 months of listening to you tell me your stories. And every meeting in those days was an hour and a half. They started at 8 o'clock. They finished at 9:30. They were all ID. So I could tell your story before you got to the part where, the punchline was. And one day with my fashionably long hair, then flicking my hair as I went out the door, I said, I don't want to go anymore. And he said, good, all right. I was back inside of a week or so. I'd lost 4 days in a blackout. The difference was this time that I'd seen that there was a solution. And whether I liked what you had, whether I wanted to do any of this 12-step stuff, whether I wanted to believe in a power greater than myself, had nothing to do with it. What I had seen was that people had walked in the rooms in their first days, and these are the days where there wasn't too many detoxes and there wasn't too many rehabs, and people shook their way through meetings. It was not at all uncommon for people to have seizures in meetings. You would often be getting air-raided from the back because there'd be a drunk in the back who'd be saying, I spilt more than you drank, love. Sit down and give me a go. And there'd be some couple of guys be trying to get him out the door so the meeting could continue. So alcoholism in all its glory was very present in an AA meeting back then. Now, we've tidied up our act. We do rehab. We come to the meeting, we're looking good. We might be barking mad, but we're doing a very good job of actually, looking fabulous on the outside. And so what happens is that I hear your experience, strength and hope, and I'm willing. Like we talk about God, gift of desperation, gathering of drunks. I was agnostic, borderline atheist. I wasn't interested in believing in anything like that. I just wanted to stop drinking and stop the chaos and madness in my head. I was unemployed and unemployable. I went to jail when I was 2 years sober when the trial finally came up. None of it was easy as I look back. And it was an era in the fellowship which we've softened a little. It was get up or die. You want to get up, you want to get sober, go to another meeting. You want to learn about how to do the program, you ask someone for help. Took me 4 years. Do not do this. It took me 4 years to walk from one side of the room to the other to ask a woman if she would help me. And she said it'd be my honour. I thought, I don't know about that. She was tough, God love her, Rita. And she took me through the program. And when I did my second, fourth and fifth step with her, and I said to her, you tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. I was totally teachable. And I did what she asked me to do. And she was the first person that I told the truth to about myself. You think about it. Have you told someone everything? I hadn't. There were things I thought I'd take to the grave. And there was plenty to be ashamed of, and I dragged all that in with me too. Shame will wash you out the door if you don't get rid of it, I know that much. What is it? Shame loses its power when we're able to speak about the things we're ashamed of. And I don't know anywhere else in the world, and I work in a lot of the helping professions, I don't know anywhere in the world where I can sit down with somebody who's not getting paid and have them listen to my story about the things I don't want to talk about and the things I don't talk about from the floor. Anyway, so throughout that process, doing 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, 8 and 9 with her, and I was prepared. I was prepared to put the hardest. By this stage, I'm a sort of. was going to say Nazi alcoholic, I shouldn't say that. I was a kind of like AA member, it's like, I just want to do it right. You just tell me what to do, I'll do it. I mean, I was prepared to do anything that you asked me to do. I did conferences. I mean, Lenny spoke yesterday at the old timers meeting, he's 51 years sober, and we used to get in a car and drive up to Morisset and do the Morisset meeting, and he was a member of that group, you know. We'd drive all over Sydney doing different meetings, because it was important to have the fellowship. And it was smaller back then, I guess, too. It was not uncommon to be called out to do 12-step jobs. And, you know, if they were calling on a woman, they'd always want a woman to go with them. So I was always in the back of the car and there'd be two blokes in the front and we'd be going to someone's home to talk to them about alcoholism. Alcoholism was very present. It was seen, it was known, it was messy, it was ugly. That's what alcoholism is to me. And I don't want to go back there. So I started to become a spiritually awake. And what does that mean, really? What does it mean? It means for me, I don't know what it means for you, but it means for me that I have an ability to be emotionally sober. That I'm not going to not speak about the things that trouble me in my intimate relationships and have them come out sideways over there in a road rage attack. It means that I'm going to be emotionally honest with the people in my life. I married in my first, I was with him from when I was 2 years sober. We got married when I was 5 years sober. By 8 years sober, it was finished for me. And I had to say to this man, who's a very delightful man, he wanted me to stop work and have babies. I said, no, I don't want to stop work and have babies. I want to make a career and make some money and have a big life, right? I wasn't interested. And I said, if you want to have babies and it's a passion for you, then you need to find someone else to do it. He did. 3 months later, his hairdresser was pregnant. And I was all good with that, you know, it's like... But that was an emotionally honest call for me. I could have stayed in that relationship. Wouldn't have been the right thing to do for him, though, or the subsequent 5 children he went on to have with Carol, God love her. And I was always grateful. Trust me, I'm not being smart. Either go, knock yourself out. You want to have 5 kids, knock yourself out, buddy, but it's not going to be with me, okay? And then I just thought, well, my career had taken off. I'd started to have a go at things. That past was behind me. I'd worked a lot of way through the steps. I was working hard. I was in publishing, having a go, taking a risk, turning up. Would you like to try this job? Yes, I don't know how to do the job, but if you're happy to train me, I'm happy to have a go at it. Never said no to an opportunity, not yet, not once in recovery. If you think you haven't got courage sitting in this room and you're counting days or months, think again. It's all barrelling down the highway at you, because courage is what is needed. And so I started to, I worked my way through the steps in my second run through, and I thought, I'm just going to make a lot of money now and have a great life. And I tripped over the second husband. You know that, you do that? If you do that, you trip over them. It's not that you trip, it's that you go back and have a second look. That's the dangerous thing to do. And he was a great guy. Nick and many people in the room knew him, and I'd done enough work on my family of origin that by then I'd gone back. I had to go out and do some therapy. I'd done enough for 4th and 5th, and so I'd gone on. And, I had a child in recovery, and she was born healthy, all good. We were pulling together houses, doing the stuff you do when you're in a relationship with somebody, both sober in the rooms. And she was about 5 weeks old, and he complained of being tired. And I said, well, yeah, I'm a bit tired too. Like, I got the baby. Just saying. And... he had a whizzy head and a high IQ. He was a great guy. And, go to the doctor, get checked out, spot on the lung, and they moved fast. Let's just pop you in a hospital and cut that out. Okay, I'm 15 years sober by this stage. I don't know what I'm dealing with. A week later, I get a phone call, long story short, from a oncologist, a surgeon, who's telling me that my husband has 6 months at best, at worst, and 2 years at best to live. And I can remember exactly where I was standing in that house with her in my, her head was here and her feet were here. And I can remember saying to this man whom I'd never met, "Are you telling me my husband's going to die?" And he said, "Yes." And I had to get in the car. Well, I got a friend of mine, I couldn't drive, to go back in. That was on the Thursday, he was dead on the Friday. And so, as I stood in that morgue with him and the baby in the capsule on the table, I wasn't thinking, where's God in this? I was thinking, I have no idea what to do now. And I was numb. And what happened for me is that I had gone to learn to meditate when I was 7 years sober, because, you know, that's what it talks about. And I grew up in an era in fellowship where nobody really talked about meditation too much. And I wanted to learn how to do it. And I went to Satchinanda Yoga at Manly, they were in Manly then, and learnt to meditate. And I stopped meditating and I stopped praying. And I was 15 years sober. And I was so enraged with God at what I was dealing with. Now, I got to tell you, if I was dealing with something similar now, it would not be how I'd manage it, but it was how I managed it then. I did not stop going to AA meetings. I did not stop speaking to the women in Alcoholics Anonymous. Loved the men, nothing wrong with that, but it was the women that carried me through that. And I often say, you know, they held a light for me for the next 4 years while I found my way through the darkness. And I'm looking at a woman now who's sitting in the room, and I won't name her because she'll get embarrassed, but I went to her and I said to her at about 4 or 5 years after this, I said, "I think I'm spiritually bankrupt, I don't know what to do." And she introduced me to a Jesuit priest who was a red wine drinking, cigar smoking Jesuit, just the kind I like. And he would come and talk to me about matters spiritual. You know, we would talk and walk. And then he passed me on to another guy, he had other work to do, and he passed me on to Steve Sin, who was the priest at St Canice's for a long time. And the first question Steve asked me was, "Well, Diane, tell me what your prayer life's like." And I was silent because I couldn't answer it. I said, "I don't know how to answer that." And he said, "Well, let's see if we can work on that." And very slowly I started to pray and meditate again. Because, you know, there are periods, if 50 years of recovery has taught me anything, is that whatever you think's coming down the barrel at you at life, you're probably wrong. And I'm not being smart when I say that. You know, we think we know. Like, we think we know. We have no idea what we don't know. None. What I do know is this, though. Depending on how I'm facing anything that's going on in my life is going to be how I start to deal, what I've done in the last 3 to 6 months. I don't suddenly wake up one day and I'm having a bad day. I don't wake up one day and suddenly I'm spiritually bankrupt. That's not how it works for me. It's what haven't I been doing for the last 3 months? What haven't I been paying attention to? What am I not talking to the people that are close to me about? What are my intimate relationships looking like? And I'm not talking sex, I'm talking intimacy. Do I allow you to see into me? Beautiful word, intimacy. Into me I see. Do I allow you to see who I am in all my rawness with the stuff that's not what I want to talk about from the floor? And that's spiritual awakening for me. Carry the message to alcoholics, I think that's a given. It doesn't say practising alcoholics. It says alcoholics. We sit in AA meetings a lot of the time. I sometimes, I'm a bit tired, I'm getting a bit older, I work still, and sometimes I think to myself, wow, I'm a little bit tired to be listening to all this stuff, wow, do I have to hear this? What I know is that my very presence in the room stands for something. I don't care if you've got 1 day or 56 years, you stand for something in an AA meeting. You take up a space, you offer something. You don't have to open your mouth. Your energy speaks for all of it. And to practice the principles in all our affairs, well, that was very adequately shared by both Kat and Michael. But what are the principles? First step, honesty. Second step, hope. Hearing other people's experience. Third step, surrender. Fourth step, courage. Fifth step, integrity. Am I the same person with you as I am with you? Am I the same person with you as I am my daughter, who's now 35, by the way? With my grandchildren? With my sponsees? Am I showing up as the same person? Or am I pretending to be something I'm not? Because that's bullshit and you all know that. 6, willingness. 7, humility. Beautiful word. 8, love. 9, responsibility. 10, discipline. 11, awareness. And 12, service. I'm sober all this time because I've continued to show up. And I want to end with one final question, 2 minutes. I was working with a man, a very senior guy who was in the military. He was an alcoholic. Didn't think he was. I said to him, you do realise you're probably an alcoholic, don't you? No, won't have it, and he's bloody got a rod up his back like he's been in a lot of action, Iraq, Afghanistan, a number of other places. And he would not see that he was alcoholic. And I said, look, I can't help you. I don't think I can help you. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, this spiritual, suddenly this happens, doesn't it? Happens with somebody talked about it earlier. Something drops in. I said to him, do you know what surrender is? You're a military man, aren't you? Yes. He was a lieutenant colonel. He was a military man, all right. He'd been in it forever. Do you know what surrender is? Yes. I said, if you're in some sort of action and someone asked you, more senior asked you to surrender, do you know what that means? Yes, of course I know what it means, he said to me. He's getting more and more indignant, and I'm pushing a little harder. Just let's poke the bear a little bit, see where we end up. And he said, well, of course I know what it means. I said, okay, would you explain to me what surrender means? And he said, well, it means lay down your weapons and wait for further instructions. And I said, I'm wondering if it's possible, given I can't do anything to help you, if you want to come and see me, I'm wondering if it isn't possible if you would lay down your weapons, which is your preconceived idea of everything that you think is right, and the further instructions might be you do half a dozen AA meetings. Now, I said, just half a dozen. You don't have to say anything, you just turn up, you listen. And if you, after 6 meetings, still think you're an alcoholic, I'll refer you on to somebody else. I can do that, he said. I went, okay. I thought, oh, I've got a win here. Anyway, still sober. So, you know what I mean? We look at it, don't we? The one thing I didn't want to do when I got here was surrender. They used to say stuff like, surrender to win, surrender. I think, oh, for God's sake, I'm from a place like Alabama Carruthers says all those years ago, where you fight back, get even, and don't let anyone take advantage of you, right? I'm not into surrender. I think if you surrender, you're weak. That's what I thought 50 years ago. It's not what I think today. So, it's been an amazing convention. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank the organisers for putting it on and all the work they do behind the scenes. Thank you to both our timer and our chair. Thank you.
Thank you to all our speakers. Appreciate it. It was a great meeting. Thank you.
Yo, yo, yo. Big call out to everyone who got sober in the 90s. Woo! I dress like this because I'm blessed beyond measure with all of this. It's been a great meeting for me. Absolutely knocked it out of the park. I learned in step 11 that I need to become the real me. So here I am. I didn't realise I was actually Eminem on the inside, but here I am. So the real Slim Shady is standing up. Mark, Lee, thank you so much for the meeting. What can I say? It was a fantastic meeting. Thanks, guys. A couple of announcements, if I can see through these glasses. There's T-shirt bundles out the front. If you want to buy 10 for your home group, 20 for your home group, go and buy some T-shirts from Andre. As was shared with me before the first meeting today, like the message stick book has attempted to and delivered on, the idea of embodying some Indigenous stories for those Indigenous members yet to find AA. They are pulling together a book. The working title is AA on the Inside. So GSO is asking for stories for those people who have performed service in corrections, Mark, and also those who got sober inside or have a drinking story of going to jail, to send stories into GSO so they can pull that book together this year and hopefully get that published soon so that we can carry the message of Alcoholics Anonymous inside the prisons. So thank you. Get to work on those, please. The next meeting is in here. Is entitled The Miracles of Recovery and is at 1:30 p.m. So we've got an hour's break, and can you please help me help Mark and Lee close the meeting with the Serenity Prayer.
Thank you all. Serenity Prayer. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, courage to change the things we can, and wisdom to know the difference. Thank you.